Good morning. Good morning, and thank you so much for being with us here today for this very important conversation. My name is Dottie Gallagher. I'm the president and CEO of the Buffalo Niagara Partnership, and I'm pleased to welcome you here this morning. I'm sure you've seen and heard in the news that Western New York continues to welcome refugees from across the globe seeking to restart their lives. And in many cases, these individuals arrive in our community possessing skill sets and experience that make them a strong asset to our local workforce and an untapped pool of talent to help solve labor shortages that all employers are facing. Today's program is a part of our Employ Buffalo Niagara initiative and will feature information on how employers can tap into this growing talent pool, including an overview of the important work being done by local resettlement agencies, the programs and resources they provide and are funded to provide, and how employers can work with these agencies to fill job openings. So I'm very pleased that we're joined today by two representatives from the International Institute, Denise Behag, Director of Numeric and Integration, and Madison Fenton, the Employment Services Program Manager. It's important to note that there are several resettlement agencies across Western New York, and many of them are engaged with the partnership, but we thought it would be good to have the International Institute walk us through the programs which really apply to all the resettlement agencies as well, and we will share all that contact information with you. So without further ado, Denise and Madison, if you turn your cameras on, we are happy to have you here, and they are going to tell us more about the demographics, refugee demographics here locally, and the responsibilities of the resettlement agencies. So I'm going to turn it over to Madison and Denise for the next few slides. Your mic's off, Denise. And Madison, so is yours. Something. There, Madison, yours is off too. There you go. Okay, that's okay.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you, Dottie, and the partnership for allowing us to be here and present about this important topic. And thank you, everyone, for your interest. We're very fortunate to live in a city that is called the City of Good Neighbors, and for many reasons. And refugees and immigrants are one of the populations that has realized this and are coming to Buffalo to the point where it is actually the first time in 70 years that our population is increasing, and that's due in large part to the large influx of refugees and immigrants. Many of those refugees coming in through the various refugee resettlement programs that Dottie had alluded to. 10.4% of the city of Buffalo is foreign born, and this is really important to driving our economy and just improving the diversity of the town that we live in. Next slide, please. Just a little bit about the refugee resettlement program itself. This program has been in existence since 1980, regardless of the administration that's been in office. Came about through the Refugee Act of 1980. There are 9 refugee voluntary agencies that contract with the US government to do resettlement work. And there are 350 affiliates throughout the United States. All of us do the same work. We do it differently. We are obligated to provide what are called core services. These are approximately 15 services that we are paid to do under this contract during a 90-day time frame, and they are just basic services, but one of those services does include linkage to employment. Employment is a very important aspect of the refugee resettlement program, and we'll talk more about that later. But just to give you a snapshot, I'm not going to go through all of the numbers, but you can see historically how the numbers have ebbed and flowed depending upon world events, depending upon the administration, and how we are really trying to build back our resettlement programs that have dipped lower in the previous years and are now on target to welcome 125,000 refugees. So we are really gearing up ourselves and our programs for that. Next slide, please. Madison, you want to take this?
Sure. So we serve a variety of clients, and at all of the resettlement agencies, we assist refugees and immigrants and asylees, or people who are seeking asylum. At the International Institute, we also support victims of domestic violence and human trafficking. So all of these people can be enrolled into our program and are looking for work. These statistics, this little chart shows the number of refugees that entered the United States through New York State specifically in 2021. So this was kind of right on the beginning end of when we started receiving all of these Afghan parolees and evacuees. But you can see here we have a very diverse population of clients, and we have people from all over that need our services. Next slide, please.
As you can see, Western New York has a strong history of welcoming refugees into our communities. And we are really fortunate to have, as I mentioned earlier, numerous agencies that work to connect these individuals with available services and help integrate them into society. Meaningful employment is not only important, but a necessary requirement for refugees as they resettle. So let's walk through the series of employment programs that exist that are available here in Buffalo, not only with the International Institute, but with your other colleagues. Denise, why don't you take us through the next slide or two?
Sure. As I mentioned previously, employment is essential for refugees and immigrants to reach self-sufficiency in the United States. Clients know this before they arrive. It's important for all reasons. It's important because they actually take a loan out to come to the United States. A lot of people don't know that. I was surprised when I found that out. And the loan repayment begins around 4 to 5 months after they've arrived. It's the cost of a traditional airline ticket. So it's important for paying back that loan. It's important for them to regain a sense of being able to support their families. It's important for them to be able to pay their bills. And also our programs are measured on our clients reaching self-sufficiency. That's why all of the resettlement agencies have their own employment programs, because employment and self-sufficiency is so important. Many of our clients send money back home, and that certainly is the case with a lot of our Afghan arrivals. They're supporting families that have been left behind. They also need to save money for adjustment of status. So when refugees are admitted to the US, they come with permission to enter the United States, to live in the United States, and to work in the United States, and that's important. But that refugee status is sort of a gray status. They need to adjust that to become a permanent resident, or what's often commonly called a green card. There is an application for that, and there are fees associated with that, filing fees. After they have been in the United States for 5 years, they can become citizens. That also is another process where individuals actually have to pass an exam, be able to read and write a sentence, pass a series of very difficult questions that, quite honestly, I probably wouldn't know all of the answers to. This is not the exact case with the Afghans that are coming in, but they also do need to adjust their type of status, which currently, as Madison mentioned, is parolee or evacuee. But the important thing to realize is that all of the clients that refugee resettlement agencies work with are authorized to live in and to work in the United States. And we ensure that before we connect them to an employer. We offer employment services to refugees and immigrants of very diverse backgrounds. Currently, we're working with individuals who speak Burmese, Swahili, Arabic, Pashto, and Dari. These are individuals from Burma, from Africa, from Syria and Afghanistan. Many of our current client base, as people have heard on the news, individuals who are coming out of Afghanistan have had military experience working with our troops, embedded with them, providing language services or cultural liaisoning services, working for, we have one of our clients who worked doing vouchering for construction that was happening. He was working with NATO forces. Many have manufacturing experience, auto mechanic experience, restaurant experience, professional backgrounds. And we have clients who, were farmers or employed, self-employed. We also provide pro bono services for some clients who are immigrants who have been here but are not necessarily employed. So our funded programs are specifically for refugees, but we do serve some immigrants. Those are individuals who come here on a lottery program or willingly. Refugees meet a very specific international and national definition of why they are refugees, because they face fear of persecution in their home countries, versus an immigrant, for lack of better phrasing, who comes here because they want to or choose to. Next slide. We have various refugee resettlement programs that are funded through various means. Again, every agency has in-house employment programs. All of our clients who are between the ages of 18 and 65 who are physically able to are linked to our employment programs within 10 days of arrival. The various funding sources that we have: New York State funding, which is shared by all of the resettlement agencies, private funding, which is United Way funding, Office of Refugee Resettlement funding, the International Institute has that funding. We also have Office of New Americans funding through New York State as well. And previously we had funding from the Department of Labor. So you can see that our funding, just like our clients, is extremely diverse. This allows us to provide a lot of different types of programming. And most importantly, our programs are free of cost to clients and employers. Next slide. And again, just a photo, we serve many different types of clients and many different types of employers.
Denise, before you move on, you used a term earlier, a parolee, which has a very definite definition in the US that I don't think is probably the same definition that you use. Could you clarify that?
It does, and I'm glad you said that. Thank you. Parolee is a specific immigration status, not what you're thinking of or what most people think of as parolee, someone who was previously incarcerated and is now out on parole. That's why you'll tend to hear us use the term evacuee. So it refers to a specific type of immigration status, not a parolee as someone who was paroled from being incarcerated.
Yeah, a person doesn't have a criminal record in that status, right? Okay, so that's an important point.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, great, terrific. So we can keep going here. Thank you.
Madison, you want to talk about the different types of programs that we offer?
Yeah, so within all of those funding sources that Denise mentioned, each client goes through the same sort of employment program process. So within our in-house programs, we offer employment preparation. So we have a fairly intensive job club or job readiness class that we offer at the Institute. Every resettlement agency offers job readiness and employment preparation in order to prepare our clients to enter the workforce. We also offer job placement services. So that would be what we're talking about today, getting our clients linked with employers throughout the community who are willing to hire our clients and who have jobs that are a good fit for their specific skill sets. We also offer retention services. So once a client is placed into a job and is working that job, we provide post-employment case management, to support the client in keeping the job and making sure that they are successful in their place of work. We can also offer specialized training programs. As Denise mentioned earlier, we used to work with the Department of Labor, and then we offered like a specialized manufacturing course. We can offer different specialized programs based on the needs of our clients. We also teach financial literacy. This is included in our employment preparation courses. And we also have a separate sort of financial literacy curriculum that we can teach, and we help clients budget, and this allows them to really achieve self-sufficiency here, which is the main goal of the employment programs.
And before you move on, can I ask a question about this? When you say employment preparation, is that sort of generic how to go to work preparation, or is it really specific around an employer's specific employer?
So this is a general course. We also offer assistance with onboarding with a specific employer. And we, like I said, we can sort of offer specialized programs if there is, a demand for an additional class.
So let me jump in and add to that too. Just a little bit about my history. I've been with the Institute for, I don't know, like 24, 25 years now. And I was one of the employers that was hiring from the Institute because I was having a really difficult time finding employees that would pass a drug test or that would come to work and not try to tell me that their sixth grandmother had died and that's why they didn't show up for work, or, I would hire them and they wouldn't show up. So I reached out to the Institute and developed our job club program. That's what our agency calls it. But all of the resettlement agencies, in terms of employment preparation, the preparation is based on feedback that we receive from employers, and it's changing. It changes based on the type of employers that we work with. It changes often based on the type of clients that we get. So some of our clients come to us and need to have a better understanding of soft skills. And, a perfect example is many years ago when the Bosnians were coming in, they were used to more of a socialist-based type of work. So if I was doing, it was rubber injection molding at the time, and, they were doing 300 of these little widgets in an hour, which was 2 times what everyone else was doing, but they weren't paying attention to the quality. And in the client's mind, I was doing more work. I was working faster, but in the employer's mind, it's more about quality. It's not how much you were doing. So we had to learn to incorporate the whole idea of quality management into our job club to explain that to our clients. That's not something that we had thought about perhaps before. Sometimes it's softer skills about, your boss isn't your friend, or how to get along with coworkers. Sometimes it's about how to take advantage of a 401k if an employer offers it. So it really, that employment preparation piece depends a lot on the client and the employer. And we have also done employment preparation for specific types of employers. So for example, at the Institute, when we had a lot of individuals who were coming in with higher level of English from Iraq many years ago, we started a customer service class because those individuals wanted to own their own businesses or work in the customer service sector. We had even talked about starting up a dairy farm program, but we really want to respond to the needs of the employers. So yes, there's soft skills, things like what's expected at work, but then we can also delve into being much more exacting. A lot of our employers need math skills. So in the past, we've done very specific math skill related mini job clubs to sort of teach to the needs of the employers.
Thank you.
Give a little more information.
Appreciate that.
Sure.
So this is more about our job readiness classes. A lot of our clients have worked in the past. So prior to coming to the US, they have had jobs and held jobs. As Denise mentioned, we've had people who were self-employed and were farmers, all the way up to people who were working in the government. But what the goal of our employment preparation courses is to really make sure they are ready to enter the American workforce. Oftentimes that looks very different from what they were used to. So in our job readiness classes, we address things like cultural expectations and cultural differences. And it really serves as an orientation to entering the American workforce. Each agency offers job readiness training. It is not standardized, but we do all cover many of the same topics. At the International Institute of Buffalo, we have a very intensive job club class. It runs for a month. It is 16 hours total, and all clients that are in our program have to attend before we will work with them to find a job that suits their skills. In our job club, we cover working in America, cultural expectations, how to find a job, and then how to keep a job. So things like resume writing and interview skills, and then also how to treat your coworkers, how to speak to your supervisor, and general workplace etiquette and soft skills that are necessary to keep a job. We do also cover labor rights and the responsibility of yourself as an employee, so everyone understands what the workplace is expecting from the employee and then what the employee can expect from the employer. And like we said before, we also cover financial literacy to help our clients with budgeting, 401ks, accessing benefits through their employer, things like of that nature. Next slide. Before we enroll someone into our employment program, we do a very comprehensive assessment. This is designed to address anything and everything from a client's background. We can ask them things about their medical history, so their physical limitations. We can ask about their educational and employment backgrounds. We really assess their language skills, so their ability to speak English as well as other languages that they, their native languages, and then anything else that they have learned along the way. And this is really to get a full picture of who the client is and what types of jobs they are well suited for. This is designed to make the job matching process or the job placement process efficient, because we have a very good idea of what the client is looking for and what they are capable of doing. Like Denise mentioned earlier, we just want to reiterate that everyone who is enrolled into our employment program is legally authorized to live and work in the United States. So we do not work with anyone who is undocumented. And we also, when we enroll them into the program, discuss our expectations of their involvement in this process. So we are not a staffing agency, and we expect the client to be actively involved in learning the skills that are necessary to work in America, as well as actively involved in their job search process. So we have our program expectations are that they all participate in the job readiness training prior to finding a job, and that they, when they agree to work a job, they keep the job unless there is a real reason to leave the job, not just that they don't like it or so these things are all covered while enrolling them into the program, and then also during our job readiness training. Next slide, please.
Great. So this is my cue. We're about halfway through our time. I just want to pause for 1 second and tell anyone, we've had a couple questions in the queue already. But if you have a question, please enter it into the Q&A. If you see a question similar to the one you want to ask, but just hit the like button on one of the other questions and that will bring it to the top. Like I said, we're about halfway through time. So hopefully we'll get through most of those. And if not, someone will get back to you after this session is over. You talked a little bit about language, Madison, and we do hear this from our employers that this is a barrier for some employers, particularly if they don't have anyone else speaking that language. It seems to be a problem that gets resolved when there is a cluster of employees that speak a second that has English as their second language. So maybe you could talk a little bit to us about how refugees become exposed to and learn English, particularly for the workplace.
Yeah, so our clients have a variety of language skills and educational backgrounds, as we mentioned earlier. We do often have clients that speak English, and it is English as a second language. But for those who do not, we enroll them into English classes, and they can attend those classes free of cost for as long as they need to in order to become as proficient in English as they want to. We at the Institute use a simple scale to assess their language ability. So we use a scale from 1 to 5, 1 being no English and 5 being fluent. So often we will ask an employer what sort of level of English someone would need to speak in order to be a good fit for their open positions. There are, like I said before, the English classes are free in the area, most of them. And we have offered fee-based specialized English classes for employers who are have a large population of people who do not speak much English. Denise, if you'd like to explain that more, I think you
So thanks, Madison. Just to piggyback on what Madison was saying, there are an abundance of free English as a second language classes throughout the city. Obviously during COVID, that was not the case, but things are opening back up again. We encourage our clients to continue learning English even after they go to work. It is difficult. I mean, most of our clients are adults. The average age probably is 35. And I don't know about you, but the idea of working all day and then taking a class 5 nights a week and raising a family would be exhausting. But if employers can sort of continue to encourage the clients, it really benefits everyone. They also pick up a lot of English on the job, whatever those words are. Sometimes they're better than others, but it's really important for our clients to continue those English classes, and they are available. One of the caveats about Madison explaining the scale is, and we'll talk about this a little bit more later with what makes a good placement, is really understanding the needs of English. So if someone is doing a repetitive job and an employer says, well, they need to be a 5, they need to be fluent, that's where we come in and we can sort of brainstorm with that employer. Do you really need a 5 who's fluent if they're doing the same job every day? Or do you need a 5 in order for them to understand OSHA standards, safety requirements for the first week on the job? We can provide, and we do provide, I'll speak for all of the agencies, interpreting oftentimes for the interview process to make sure that the nuances of the job are understood by the clients who are interviewing, and the employers really have a good understanding of the person that they're meeting with. We encourage our employers to continue to work with interpreters. At the Institute, we provide complimentary interpreting services to each employer, a limited amount of hours. And beyond that, we encourage and will help the employers set up interpreting services so that further down the road, if they need language access, they can use that. But we are there to support the clients and the employers, especially during that onboarding class. The fee-based classes, we've had a lot of luck with some of our employers who've come to us and said, listen, we're going for a certain type of certification, or we're running into issues where We just need our employees to understand some basic terminology because we have a new machine, and we will send a teacher in that works exclusively with us. She will meet with the supervisors and talk about what their specific needs are. What do they want their employees to understand? Are there specific vocabulary words that they need to understand? Is it basic communication? They'll do an assessment, a pre-assessment and a post-assessment, and they will again teach to specifically what the employer needs to learn. So there's many different options available, but again, going into this with a really clear understanding and some flexibility where you can be flexible. If you're an employer that says, I need someone who's at a level 4, we're not going to walk in and say, well, here's someone who's a level 1, can you make it work? We want to have that discussion and dialogue to make sure that your needs are being met.
Excellent.
Job club. And everyone gets certificates, so.
Okay, great. Well, we're going to transition now, talking about sort of the background and skill sets of refugees that are resettling into Western New York. But I'm going to, before I read sort of the intro to this section, there are a couple questions that relate to this that as you're making your remarks, let's see if we can incorporate them in context here. Ashley Sunderland from Person-Centered Services is asking if you or any of the other resettlement agencies have services that provide education degree translations so that they can find the U.S. equivalents in their college education. And they know that this can often be an expensive process. You don't need to answer this now, just in your comments as we go through. And then Bob Fornes is asking a question: is this program associated with refugees that are already in the U.S. or will be in the U.S. soon, or is there an employment demand created and registered with the Institute and other agencies, and then refugees are recruited to come into the program? So as we're starting to talk about talents and who does what, if you would just incorporate those answers into your questions, we can move through that. Well, we know, for example, that in manufacturing has been a really good fit for many refugees who have settled here. And our community is also welcoming refugees who have had past careers requiring high skill certifications. So let's walk through the traits of the population, the opportunities that are out there, and address these questions that a couple people have asked. And again, just a reminder, if you have questions, go ahead and put them in the Q&A. So Denise, I'll just transfer this back to you.
So this, I think, answers Ashley's question about professional pathways for our clients. And the Institute recognized, I think all of the agencies recognize, that we have a lot of clients who are coming in with previous certifications, licenses, credentials, and oftentimes those previous employment positions and credentials don't translate here in the United States, and you're left with sort of brain drain and dissatisfied clients and positions that aren't filled and markets that are suffering because they don't have enough employees or qualified individuals to fill them. So the Office of New Americans for the state of New York and the Office for Refugee Resettlement, both of them had funding opportunities available to allow programming to address the needs of those clients coming in with previous certification, experience, and education levels in particular sectors that needed a pathway. So this particular program, we have Mervet, who works with the state funded program, and Ahmed, who works with the federal program. And they address these outstanding employment and certification needs in the refugee community. So if we have an individual, for example, who was an engineer in Syria and who wants to know how he can work as an engineer here, or a woman who was a teacher or a lawyer in Afghanistan, what can they do with their skills? What can they do with their credentials? This this program allows us to work individually with those individuals, sit and evaluate their previous credentials and experience, work with our partners, one of whom is a national partner, WES, World Education Services, that works with credentialing. And there is direct client assistance money in here, because Ashley was correct. It is quite costly to pay for that recredentialing. Those transcripts and things have to be translated, evaluated. This program alleviates a lot of the cost of that. And we're able to work with these individuals to either get them back to where they were previously or put them on a separate path. I mean, the harsh reality is, if you are, you know, a 55-year-old refugee and you were a doctor and you have limited English, the chances of you being a doctor again are slim. It can be done, but you have to first learn English, you have to get recredentialed, you have to take all of your boards all over again. But if you have someone who is a medical professional or a doctor, maybe they could be some other type of medical professional, still fill a need in that sector, and still have that sort of passion and their previous work history needs taken care of. So this program allows us to do that. We have referrals to specialized ESL partners, career coaching and mentoring, employment opportunities. The state program, we work with a state partner and refer our clients back to that state partner, where they also are seeking out employers that can work with our clients, creating personalized career development plans for our clients, and doing the recredentialing and credential recognition. It's a very important program for us. We just started it. We got the awards in October. We really formally started in, I think, early December, and I believe we already have 80 individuals total enrolled in those programs. So it speaks to the need and how popular that programming is. Madison, do you want to take this?
Sure. So these are some examples of the clients that we currently have enrolled in the federally funded program, and their interests by sector. So we have a lot of people who, and this data actually is a little bit old, but this program just started in October. So I think we have about 50 clients enrolled now. Many of them are interested in re-entering the health sector. So we've had doctors and nurses who would like to continue to work in the medical field. We have some people who were working in finance and accounting that want to re-credential here or re-enter their previous workforce. We actually just had a client who started working at a company here in Buffalo as a senior financial advisor or analyst. He just started in February, so he was able to re-enter, his previous workforce. We have some people who want to be truck drivers or get their CDL license, barbers, people who like computers or worked in IT, or who want to be, I think, pilots. I'm not sure exactly which type, but I know we have some people who are interested in that. And then also many clients who would like to go back to college.
This is a good overview, I think. I mean, I don't think we need to go into each specific, the number of people. And I guess the question I have before we move off of this is, do these categories mirror what your other partner agencies also see in terms of interest, in terms of and background?
We are collecting all of the clients from various agencies. So this program is
Got it. Okay.
It's an institute program, but it is open to all of the other agencies, and they wrote letters of support for this program. So the idea is collaboration, and when they have a client who has a higher skill level, to send them to us.
Perfect.
And interesting, just to comment on the pilot piece, the federal government is recognizing that a lot of the individuals that are coming out of Afghanistan worked for the military and for our military and war pilots, and there is a pilot shortage. So they are actually reaching out to the organizations, all of the resettlement agencies, and in particular, ones that have this program, to talk about recruiting pilots. So,
Excellent.
yeah.
Perfect. Well, we're getting tight on time, so I want to make sure we're getting into the meat of this that I think most people have tuned in for. So when we talk about, and by the way, thank you. That was a really great overview. Let's talk now about the specifics of placing individuals with an employer. What kind of employers make the best fit, and what kind of supports are provided to the individual and the employer once a refugee is on the job? And I just want to add couple questions from our people watching. A lot of concerns around transportation, particularly in rural areas. So if you'll touch on that as you go through these slides, that would be great. And like I said, we're at 9:41, so we want to get through everything that we've got here because it's super important. So
Sure.
so who's got this? Denise, you?
I got it.
Okay.
So again, when we place, we want to keep the needs of the employer in mind and do job matching, as Madison said. We're not going to match someone who is not appropriate for the job. We want to make sure that we're meeting the needs of the employer. Each employer works with us individually how they want to, and this applies across the board to all of the agencies. Some employers want to do interviews. That's up to the employer. Some employers will say, listen, I trust you. We've had a long-standing relationship. Just bring me 5 people. I want to meet them, and then we'll do the onboarding. So it really is personalized also to the employer. The expectation is that we meet the employer first. We find out what their needs are. We want to have a walk around the employer's place of business to get an idea of what the client will be doing. And then find out what their particular needs are, look at the job description so that we make sure that it's a good fit for everyone. We want this to be a successful partnership. We are there to assist with new hire paperwork. And again, we can provide limited interpreting assistance to overcome language barriers. Next slide. Again, this is a really good snapshot picture of the sectors that immigrants and refugees are currently working in. The largest percentage is in manufacturing and construction, and within that category, it is all levels, from basic manufacturing, logistics, all the way up to more advanced manufacturing type positions, and then after that would be the healthcare and food services industries. Next slide, please. Job retention is very important. It's important, obviously, for turnover reasons for employers. That's why we spend so much time in the beginning, getting to know our clients, asking them the right questions, doing a really in-depth assessment. Placement, I think everyone will agree with this. As an employer, it was always the easiest part for me. Find a person to fill the job. That's easy. Keeping them in that job when issues come up, whether it be just a circumstance of I need daycare all of a sudden, or you want me to work a second shift and I don't know how to take the bus second shift, or you need me to come in on a Saturday, that can be a really huge barrier for not just our clients, but for anyone. And that's where programs like ours come in, because we can provide that post-employment case management. We can go back in and address particular barriers that might be cultural. And on the other hand, it might just be a bad fit. Our clients aren't perfect. Our program isn't fail-safe. We will work with both to make sure that we can do whatever possible, but we don't expect employers also to break rules. If it's not a good fit, we want to know about it. We will help that client find another job, but feedback is very important. Next slide. So here's a couple of various employers. I'm sure some of these names may be familiar. There may even be individuals from these employers on the call. So I want to send a shout out to them and thank them for their ongoing support. There's a wide array of types of employers on here. And these we just included for this call, employers that we thought would match with those on the call. We also have healthcare, retail, and of course, hospitality industry. Next slide. Harmac Shout out to you guys. Great employer. So what makes a great employer? Again, awareness of potential issues. I think it's flexibility during the hiring process, the ability to plan for solutions. So we're going to do our part to make sure that we've taken a really comprehensive look at the client. What are their transportation barriers? What kind of English skills do they have? But from the employer perspective, it's making sure that everyone's on the same page. From my history at the Institute and from my history as being an employer, this seems to be a huge concern. So you've got your higher ups, HR, or the owner of the company saying, this is great, we want to hire refugees, they've got this great work ethic, and let's just get it done, without really thinking about the folks on the ground level who are going to have to be training that person. It is going to take a little bit more time. It is going to take some budgeting adjustments to add in potentially some interpreting. There are going to be a couple of bumps in the road as things happen. So making sure that your supervisors or that your team leaders understand how to work with the refugee clients or that population, and understanding too that, again, we're not an employment agency. So as much as we would love to be able to meet employers' needs, that, I need 15 people by Monday, that is not going to happen. And it's not going to happen because we want to make sure that we have a really good fit. And we want to make sure that everyone is fully prepared. They know how to take the bus. They've got their work boots. They brought their lunch on the first day. All of these things, we want to make sure that they're in place so that it is a successful placement. Logistics, working in supports, again, on the employer's end to make sure that there are things set up if there are potential issues, overtime or bonuses for those who are training the new clients, interpreting budget, holding clients accountable to the same standards. That's really important also from a workplace culture, to make sure that our clients aren't being, there are cultural issues that may come up, but cultural issues, being late is being late, whether you're a refugee or any other employee, unless there's something that we can do to assist with that. I mean, we've had people that have ridden their bikes every day from downtown Buffalo to, Transit Road to get to work, and we will help work those things out. And understanding what agencies can do and our limitations. Next slide, please. There are also a lot of resources available for employers. Certainly the resettlement agencies are a resource. We want to be called if there are issues that come up with employees being hired. We want to be there to make sure that that retention is going to work for, that the retention is going to be there. And we tell our clients we expect them to stay there. But we also tell our clients if issues do arise, we want to be a part of the solution. And the same thing with employers. Also, there are organizations, the Tent Foundation has come out with a phenomenal guide to employers working with refugees that is written by the CEO of Chobani. Also, there's a nonprofit organization called Hire that has a lot of workforce solutions. These are just supplemental books and information guides for employers that are looking to work with refugees.
Denise, before we move off of this, we're getting a lot of questions about access and transportation.
Let me address that.
Yeah, and it's I'll just, what Valerie Vance wrote is, it seems that most refugees settle on the west side. This makes it difficult for business in North Tonawanda to employ. There's a bus, but it doesn't pick up or drop off nearby. They would need to walk. So her question is, do any organizations resettle in places other than the west side? But this issue of, helping people, particularly people who are new to the area, who may have trouble with English. I mean, I have trouble navigating navigating the bus system. And I've lived here all my life. Is that the answer? Is you have to, what is the answer in terms of transportation and I see Triad Distributing, which Paul Vukelic's chairman of our board, but they're out on Walden Avenue. They're not in the city core. Like, talk specifically about employers that are not in the core.
So I live right by Triad Distributing. I drive by 20 manufacturing facilities on the way to work. Transportation is a huge challenge. Resettlement agencies traditionally have resettled in locations where there's public transportation, access to grocery stores, and that's why traditionally you find so many refugees living in the west side of Buffalo. As housing has become more difficult, we are placing more clients in other parts of the city, but we also have to look at where our clients are going to be able to afford to live. So all of the resettlement agencies show clients how to take the bus within, I would say, the first 2 weeks of them living here. You have to take the bus to get around. You have to take it to get your kids to school, to get to the grocery store, to get to your doctor's office. So they are taught how to take the bus, and the employment programs supplement that. Once a client gets a job, we show that employee how to get to their place of work. So walking 3 or 4 blocks is not unusual and is not something that we would say, oh, you can't work there. The challenge starts, and I think someone alluded to this, when you have buses that are on a particular schedule, and that schedule is not in line with the schedule of the employer. So if you're working all the way out in Lancaster corridor and the shift ends at 11 o'clock at night, there's no bus. So this is a place where I know the NFTA used to work with employers that had more than 10 people on a particular shift. They would do paratransit out to that employer, but I really would encourage employers that are on these corridors to have conversations with the NFTA and say, it's kind of like if you build it, they will come. There's 6 employers within a half a mile span on Walden Avenue.
Denise, I hate to interrupt you, but their employers are doing that, and with various levels of success and challenge. How
can we help with that?
Well, I think that's not for today's conversation.
Okay.
I mean, I think the question was really, are there special supports for refugees for transportation? And the answer is, other than yes, in that you help them learn how to ride the bus, but there are no special, lift cards or anything like that allows them to get where they're going. So there's another set of questions I think is super important here, and it's really about, how do employers connect with you? So the questions are, if we're looking to hire refugees, do they apply to our job postings, or do we work with you to have you recommend people? And is there a place we can directly share our open positions?
If you go to the next slide,
oh, great.
I think it should have all our contact information. So
Okay.
The first step, in order for the employers to reach out to us, these are our contact information from all of the agencies. The first step is to reach out and talk to someone in the employment department at these agencies. If you just send us job postings, we will have to have a conversation with you anyways about very specific questions like we're addressing today. So it is easier just for you to reach out and say, hey, I have, this amount of openings. Maybe we're a good fit. Let's talk about it.
And Madison, you're honest with employers. If they're if they're not in the right spot or they don't have the right kind of jobs, you help navigate that for them.
Yeah,
that's great.
So, yes, and we're very transparent, because I don't want anyone thinking that they're going to get all these employees when we don't have anyone that can actually get to their location, or things like that. We do have, just really quickly, we have a couple of employers who have been very creative about the transportation issue. So right now we are working with a company that's way out in Clarence. There is no bus line, and they will not put a bus line in. And that employer is hiring a driver to pick up employees from the city, drive them to work, and then drive them home at the end of the day. So there are ways around this. I think though the first step is to make sure that like it would be a good fit, and then we can be creative about these things if it's possible.
Well,
And
I think
also
that's
just
super
wanna
helpful.
add-
Yeah, go ahead,
oops,
Denise.
I'm sorry,
No,
I
go
also
ahead.
want to add, we serve clients that have been in the United States up to 5 years. So not all of our clients are new arrivals. We have many clients who've been here for 2 years and are looking to upgrade their jobs. They have cars, and to be perfectly honest with you, a lot of our clients realize the importance of a car and are getting cars, you know, very quickly within 6 months of arrival. So there are clients who do drive. So not all are reliant on public transportation. Just want to put that out there.
That's an important point, Denise. Thank you for sharing the 5-year time frame as well. So there's kind of it's an oddball question because it didn't fall into a neat bucket and the other ones, but there's a question from Invest Buffalo Niagara. Are there particular childcare providers that have been more helpful to supporting the refugee and immigrant community? Because we know that that's a barrier to employment that has become a very complex system to navigate. Are there any supports around childcare that you know of?
A lot of the problems that refugees face, just like transportation, the US born population faces, and childcare unfortunately is one of them. But our employment program, we have an integration specialist who does help with finding childcare for clients that want to work and have childcare barriers. So those are the reasons that, you know, our agencies, those other services that we provide are helpful.
Well, I think it's an amazing resource in our community that there are people at the Institute and those other places that are really dedicated to helping people settle and to working directly with employers. And it's wonderful to hear that you really take the time, not just to make sure it's a good fit for the employer, but a good fit for the client as well. And I think that is, as you've said, placement is only day one, right? It's really
Right.
about, is that a
Really
good experience? So the only other question we haven't answered so far is a question, Mr. Price or Ms. Price, I can't tell. Do you have any current clients specific to manufacturing that are available right now?
Maddie, I'll let you take that.
Yeah, again, I think my advice would be just to reach out to us. We do have clients right now who are interested in working manufacturing jobs, but we just have to make sure that those manufacturing jobs are ones that are a good fit for our clients.
That's excellent. Well, I just want to take a moment again to thank Denise and Madison. You guys, amazing. 2 minutes to spare. You've done a great job. And not only for today, but really for the work that you're doing on behalf of our community. As you've mentioned, this is how we're growing our population regionally, and it's incredibly important. And Lord knows we have a tremendous workforce shortage in every sector of our community. So whatever we can do to help you, let us know, and we appreciate your time today. I would say those email addresses that were up, and Charlene, can we email this to everybody who's registered for the session, so they've got them handy? So that's a request. So hopefully we'll get these out to you in your thank you email, this list of emails for employers that are looking to follow up. So any closing words, Denise or Madison, that you have?
No, thank you. Thank you for this opportunity. Thank you to employers for your investment in our clients and in this population. And we look forward to continue to working with all of you to fill your needs. And really, you're making a huge difference in the lives of our clients. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Denise. Madison, anything from you?
Oh, no, I just wanted to thank you for having us, and thank you to everyone who listened, and hopefully we'll hear from some of you soon.
Great. Well, thank you again. And thanks to everyone who took the time to tune in. Take care, and we'll have a great day. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.